Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, gather around and get ready for an enlightening episode of the Heart-Led Business Show. Today, we're thrilled to welcome the financial virtuoso, Randall Avery, the mastermind behind Deasil Wealth Management. With over 15 years of dazzling experience with a heart full of passion, Randall transforms numbers into dreams, guiding families towards financial freedom. So join us as we explore his journey of blending strategy with sincerity in the world of money management. So let's dive in and discover the magic of heart-led success. Randall, welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today and to share my experience and hopefully to inspire others to have a bigger heart-led business.
That's awesome. And I'm really excited to have you here as well. I love speaking to heart-led business owners, especially in the financial management industry, because it tends to, not everybody believes that it's heart-led. And I really do think it is. And I'm interested to hear your story and share that story with the audience as well. But of course, the first question I always like to ask is, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
I think to start off, I just want to illustrate what financial planning actually is. Financial planning touches every aspect of your life, whether it comes to family planning, whether it comes to where you live, how you educate your kids. So when I have conversations with clients, it's really about what they value and what they believe. So you really cannot separate my work from somebody's heart and passion. My goal for my business is to really be that soft space for somebody to plant their dreams, their hopes, their aspirations, and have a place where it can grow, it can look at it, they can measure it, and they can analyze it. So for me, that's really what a heart-led business is. Now, with all that said, I do work in the financial services industry. So there does have to be somewhat of a profit motive. And profit should not have a negative connotation. It's really about me having the ability to reinvest back into the services and really allow my clients to do even better. So that's what I think of a heart-led business. One, a soft place for people to express their hopes and desires and dreams. And lastly, have enough profit for me to reinvest back in my business so I can serve even more people.
I love that definition. And that's probably the first time that I've heard the balance between being that advisor and that heart-led, confidant, if you will, to your clients, and also being concerned with making sure that you have profit so you can grow the business and help more people, which is really what we all want to do anyway. So I love that you brought that into your definition of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because when you service customers, hopefully they want you to be just as profitable as they are. In my world, my clients want me to have similar experiences as they do, which means there has to be some economics behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk to a lot of heart-led, especially in the health and wellness industry. And a lot of them believe, well, I just can't charge for this because I need to help them out and da, 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 da. I'm sure you've experienced that as well in your business, or maybe with even clients that are business owners as well. What type of advice do you give to people that kind of have that mindset that, I'm heart-led, I can't ask for money?
Yeah, I think if you feel like you can't ask for money, I really think you need to dig back to the value that you're actually providing. Because if you really believe you're giving or providing a certain level of value, that should be the point in which you begin to charge. So if you have any hesitation or reservation saying, I shouldn't charge that much, then nobody will pay that. Go back to what value you're providing and who you're providing it for. That will make you a better business owner, meaning you will actually begin to focus on solving problems versus just providing a service. And once you begin solving problems, you can charge your fair share. And also, I take in America, we have a company called Chick-fil-A, the Chick-fil-A model, where I give some services for free and I give services at full price, but I don't discount. And there are different criteria for both. So I think as a business owner, you will It's just like being a public speaker. You will speak for free at times. You can't get away from that. But you do have to have some balance and some criteria that suits your business, the mission and values that your business is trying to achieve.
Yeah. I mean, and that balance too is for a lot of people is very difficult to comprehend. So how did you come about learning that and just embodying it into your business?
Yeah, I think for all business owners, it's a journey. When you go into business, you usually love what you do. So you would be willing to do it
Right.
for free in a lot of cases. I mean, that's what happened. I did it for a significantly discounted rate. But like I said, you should be, as a business owner, also measuring the impact that you have on your clients' lives. And also, you should be measuring the industry and how it charges itself. So it's really just learning that balance between the impact on your client's life versus what the industry is actually charging. What people don't talk about financial planning is the reason I charge what I charge is I had to become somebody you actually trust managing your money. And I think that applies to different service industries. Sometimes it's not exactly the hours you spend working, it's who you had to become for somebody to actually trust you with those lines. Let's take a chiropractor. Somebody's literally cracking
Mhm.
your back. What would they have to do for you to trust that person to do that to you? So things like that, I think we have to take into account. It's not just the hours worked, it's not the actual task, it's the value at the end of the day and the person you had to become to provide that service.
And part of what you just said there too, I want to dive into because I had a conversation with a client actually yesterday, and we're talking about pricing and packaging of her services. And she's a concierge doctor. When I first started working with her, prices were very low for a monthly concierge practice. I'm like, that's really cheap. And she's like, oh, but my clients, they can't afford, da, 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 da," all the excuses that we always hear. I said, you need to raise that at least another $100 on top. And luckily, she took my advice. And she said, I've been selling more at the higher price than I have at the lower price. And I was like, well, of course, because the lower price was too cheap. People are like, what am I going to get for that? It seems really cheap. Right.
I-
Is that the type of experience that you've come across as well?
Yeah, people want to see value in things. People want sometimes to sacrifice. And also, I'm sure what
Mm,
your client experience was when people pay a higher price, they're actually more dedicated to the process. They actually
yeah.
follow up. They actually respect you as a professional. So you're spot on. As you charge more, you actually receive the benefits of being perceived as a premium service or product. And that's where we want to be as service providers. We want to be valued. We just don't want to give the product or service at the cheapest price possible. We want to be seen as the professional that we are, the professional that we worked our time for, and strangely enough, that provides the client a better experience because they're going to be more dedicated. They're going to actually do the follow through. If you think of a doctor that charges $10 a month for concierge services, how much advice are you going to listen to versus if they charge $5,000 a month for a concierge service? How serious you're going to take
Right.
that advice and demand that you get a return on that investment. And I think the same thing is true for any business owner.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there is the thing that kind of popped into my mind as well. It really kind of up levels us as well as a service provider because now if we're doing $10 a month, we have to have 1,000 patients to be able to do what we need to do. And trying to service 1,000 people, it's ridiculous versus two patients at 500 or 5,000 each or 10 patients. That's the same amount, but you're going to spend much more time, give much more value to them as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And there's a term, it's like there's a worse term, and I'm using a nice term right now. A higher price is foolishness guard. It blocks a lot of foolishness. That higher price
Yeah.
just weeds a lot of people who, let's say, are a little bit more finicky, a little bit more price sensitive.
Mm.
It protects you away from that. And there's pros and cons of that. But I think if you're trying to have a scalable business, there's definitely more pros.
Oh, yeah. One thing I came out of the fitness industry, and so I did a lot of study of the different fitness brands that are out there. And you have the very high end, like Equinox and Lifetime Fitness. Those businesses, the exclusive, the higher priced businesses are thriving. And also the Planet Fitness and the Anytime where it's 20 bucks a month or 10 bucks a month or whatever it happens to be. Those are thriving as well for different reasons. But it's the ones in the middle the ones that keep going into bankruptcy, like Bally's, which is finally out, but that don't survive because they're right in that middle spot where they think is like, oh, this is where everybody is. But really, it's like that no man's land of you're in the middle, which means you're
Yeah.
mediocre. You're not super high end and you're not low end. And I think having that dichotomy of high end versus low end, you know what you're going to get
Mhm.
versus in that middle spot. It's like, what am I going to get really?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's all about a solution. So the LA Fitness, the Planet Fitness, their solution is just access. Okay, give me
Yeah.
access. It's more about network, honestly, and necessarily
Mm,
working out. So each of those
yeah.
companies provided a solution that people find extremely valuable. And like you said, somewhere in the middle, it can get great. And it can work somewhere in the middle. There's gyms that are in the middle that are extremely profitable. But it goes back to solving that problem, not just providing a
Yeah.
gym, right? It's a little bit more
Yeah.
nuanced and it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. And this is really about listening to who you're serving.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey and how you got into financial planning and kind of that transition that you went
Yeah,
through.
yeah. So for me, I thought I was going to be a big time investment bank. So I went to college, yeah, I graduated with a finance degree, but I unfortunately graduated in 2008. There wasn't a single bank hiring at that time. And I looked around and it was
Mhm.
like, "Well, I have to justify this degree." So I pivoted and took
Yeah.
about 3 years in internal audit. So internal audit, for
Oh,
those who don't know, it's really about
ooh,
checks and balances within a business. And I think any business owner would find value in just learning what internal audit is, how to do a check and balance. So that was a good kind of upbringing for me, especially early on in my career. But I missed
mhm.
finance. So I decided to transition into corporate finance, kind of corporate FP&A, financial planning analysis. And I did that for about 7 years from many different various companies. So that could include Investco, Turner Broadcasting, a lot of major corporations. And that allowed me to actually study the different business segments. So there were sales that I supported, there were operations that I supported, there was marketing I supported. So I got to see the full picture. But there was always that itch inside of me that said, I wanted to go on my own. I wanted to bet on myself. So probably about 10 years ago, I decided to open up Deasil Wealth Management, a financial planning firm. But you had to get all the certifications, you had to get all the licenses, you had to do all those different things. And then you had to decide, how do I service clients? What makes me different?
Mhm.
What problem do I solve? And that is a never ending cycle. I tell everybody business is iterative, meaning that you
Yeah.
tweak here, you tweak there, you tweak here, and it never ends. And you have to accidentally fall in love with that process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That is completely true. That it's constantly changing and listening to your customers, I think is probably the best thing that you can do to identify one, what the problem is, and two, can you solve it? And is it something that you're interested in doing as well? So what problem are you solving for your
Yeah,
clients?
so one of the big things is niches, right? And there's a saying that
Mm,
say there's riches and niches. And all that means
yep.
is if you're able to super serve a subset of people really hard, you can not only have a probably higher fulfillment in your job, but you also can derive a lot of value in which you can charge a lot of value. So there are three segments that I work with. The first one's going to be pre-retirees, so somebody about 10 years for retirement. The second one's going to be
Okay.
self-employed, and the third one's going to be an actual practice owners. Given my background in business, I love businesses, but I purely focus on how business owners can actually build wealth for themselves. So I focus on a lot of service-based businesses. So usually with a service-based business, you have to be independently wealthy, meaning you probably won't have a major exit event in your life. But most service-based businesses, they just close shop and walk away from the business. My job is to make sure
Yeah.
with their income, they're able to build enough wealth to provide for their families and their loved ones, and potentially, if they want to, pass down their business to their heirs. So that's where I work in and
Mm.
specialize in for folks.
Oh, that's awesome. And, speaking of the practice owners and the exit, when you said that, it kind of prompted me to think about that service business. It is all about that
Yes.
practitioner. So how do you advise practitioners who ultimately do want to sell their business at some point and potentially get that
Yeah,
exit?
yeah. Let's talk about the hardest part. The first thing you have to do is accept that your margins are going to go down if you want to create a business with they call it enterprise value, which means a business that can operate without you. Okay. Profits
Yeah.
go down, margins go down. Because what are you going to do with those margins? First of all, you're going to hire professionals. You're going to hire premium people who can actually do what you do, probably better than what you do. So that's what's happening when your margin goes down. So it's professional management, and you're going to reinvest in talent. The second thing you're going to have to invest in is sales training. We as the
Mhm.
practitioners know how to go out there and get clients, but that was a evolution that we had to do, that now we have to train other people to do the same thing. So that's what the first start in our advisement, that hey, it's nice having $600,000 worth of income per year, but you may have to drop
Yeah.
that down to 250 so that you can hire the right talent, so that you can reinvest in your business, so that it can be an ongoing concern. And also, there's no guarantee in this journey. We talk about
Right.
building enterprise value. So you have to accept both truths.
Mm. So even if you do put everything in, you have the SOPs, you've taken yourself out of the process, and now you've built up that enterprise value, it does not necessarily guarantee that you're going to find a buyer to give you the value that you want out of it.
That's correct. So, it may
Wow.
be the wrong time in the market. We just talked about the financial crisis, poor debt markets. Also, some of us have seen the TV show Mad Men. The people could just hop out and escape and start their own practice after you have taught them
Yeah.
all the skills they needed to operate the practice. And there's a little bit of an
Yeah.
art and science when it comes to making sure employees stay loyal to you and making sure they depend on the company. There's some things you can do there, but it's not a guarantee. But that's the bet we make. We've made bets already by going
Wow.
into business. This is just another bet in your life that you're willing to make. Now, I have noticed that if you make those bets, you tend to have a more fulfilling business because the business doesn't so heavily lean on you. It actually is a business
Yeah.
that can run by itself. So there's a little bit of a benefit on that journey as well.
Yeah. I mean, early when I was started my fitness business in 2008 as well. So, good timing there. But yeah, in the first 3 years, it was me. And it was 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. And it was a grind. But then once I hired a business coach and they're like, you need to get out of the business and start working on the business, not in the business. And when I did that, absolutely, my profit went
Mhm.
down, but I was working 8 hours a day. And actually I was like, what do I do with my time? Like
Yes.
I was kind of bored. I didn't know what to do. It was actually great.
And it's actually a test to see how much you love the business. Because that extra time probably somebody could say should be seen doubling down on figure out extra value you can provide to your customer.
Mm. Yeah.
So that I think that
Yeah.
is a great litmus test. But you're right, it's a journey that all of us business owners have to go on, begin delegating, begin to offload things. And you're right, it's a great feeling to be bored again.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And kind of the litmus test that my coach had told me is like, if you can leave the business for a month, go on vacation for a month, and it's better off when you come back, then you've done a really great job with your systems, your processes, and the management. And that happened a couple times too, which was really nice. And ultimately, I was able to sell it and exit the business profitably. And the business is still running today, almost 10 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah. Probably you're using half of your SOPs that you wrote up, right?
I hope
Yep.
so. I spent a lot of time working on those. My gosh.
That's yep. Spot on.
So, what other advice would you give to a business owner that's struggling with being heart led and also wanting to make a profit?
I would say they should go together. They really
Hmm.
should go together. You really need to figure out, how profitable do I want to be? What do I
Yeah.
need to really fund this business? Because sometimes you could charge so little that you're not even reinvesting adequately back into the business. And what are some ways you can look at that? You can look at industry metrics and benchmarks. What does a profit margin look like? How much should you spending in
Mm.
technology and OpEx? How much should you be paying employees? Because if you're not charging adequately, you could be undercharging the people who are servicing you. So sometimes if it's
Yeah.
really a heart-led business, it's a heart-led business for the employees, it's a heart-led business for the vendors, and it's a heart-led business for the quality of services that you're providing. So price is just a little bit complicated. And I really do believe if you are undercharging, you're actually projecting your values on your clients. You're projecting them to say, hey, this is what this is meant to be valued. And that's really not fair. Let the customer determine how much value that product or service is. Because as the service provider, we don't value as much as we should because we love what we do.
Yeah. 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 I struggle with that constantly, even to this day is, how much do I charge for a service? Because there's really no benchmark necessarily for a small, medium business that's mostly service led. So, it's like, well, what's my cost? And I need to cover my costs. And so it's just this kind of, you pull it out of the air sometimes and hope that's the price that works. But the nice thing about pricing is you can always change it.
Pricing is one of the most powerful things we as small business owners have. We set the price, we set the margins. And like I said, high prices can ward away a lot of foolishness that you don't have to deal with anymore. High prices allow you to invest in your business. High prices make a new client more enjoyable. Have you ever had your pricing so low, you're just like, oh my God, that's just another task? Or it could be, let's go, let's dig into this and knock it out the park. Those are two different emotions that we as business owners have felt both.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes. We've definitely felt that. And, especially in the fitness and the health and wellness, if you're not charging your clients the adequate amount, they're not going to put all the effort in. They're not going to get the results that you want them to get and that they want. And then they're going to tell their friends that, that didn't work and I wouldn't recommend that person. So, it's this spiral down to the bottom if you don't do it the correct way.
Yeah, for me, the worst scenario, the worst client situation is somebody who signs up all excited and gung-ho, and then they don't participate, don't go through the program. And now their word of mouth is, hey, how did you think about Deasil Wealth Management? Well, I kind of didn't get what I want. To me, that is a brand killer. And that goes back with pricing, that goes back with customer selection, because there's you don't want that in the ethos, because birds of a feather flock together. So I had to learn that myself, is that part of what I do is get results. And if I get results, business will come. If I don't get results, you have to fight a bad name. And that's the journey for most service-based businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that with clients as well. They get a rash of bad reviews or something like that. And it's an uphill battle to try to course correct that.
Yeah. And that goes back to finding your niche and your target customer base, because some people you will not be able to make happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up too. That's always the first thing I work with clients on, whether it's sales coaching or just general business coaching, is who are you serving? And just being very crystal clear about who that is. And then, I always get the whole, oh, but I don't want to ignore other people because I can help anybody. How do you address when people say that to you in terms of telling them to niche down?
Yeah, I think you would be surprised as you niche down, like the millions of problems you can solve within that niche. So let's take healthcare. Let's take somebody who, lost a leg but still wants to be in shape. You think, well, that is really niche down. But once you dig into all the things that you can do for them, once you realize, well, I'm a better professional because I've gone to that level of depth. That's all what I always say. It just allows you to take a level of depth. Also, you don't have to be married to your niche. It could evolve over time, right? I think I started off, I wanted to work with young professionals because I was young at the time. That might not be the right time for them to use financial planning. And that doesn't mean I don't have young professionals as clients. It's just that it takes a special young professional to engage in the financial planning process. So there's no point in digging deep down in that. Maybe I should dig deep and down for people who are ready to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get really clear about who you're going after and then just paint that picture of their whole journey, where their thought process is until they find you or they have a problem that they need to solve. I think that's such a great exercise. So then you can say, oh yeah, like there is a huge market for that. And if I get really specific about that, not only am I going to attract that market, but I'll probably attract a broader market that says, oh, if you can do that, you can probably help me with this, which is so counterintuitive, but I've seen that happen over and over and over again. It's just really amazing to watch.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is people want to know you've worked with people like them. In the fitness area, do you work with people who are over 300 pounds? I need to know that you're comfortable with it. You know how to navigate. This is not your first rodeo. In my space, I need to know that you've worked with somebody with over $2 million. I need to know you've worked with somebody with a blended family and can be sensitive and understanding and not be shocked at every little thing. This is not your first time. It's like, you don't want to be your heart surgeon's first surgery, right? I don't, yes, you're excited of the first day of a restaurant, but you want a restaurant that's operating at full capacity if it's a special event for you, right? That's why we go to the Maggiano's or the Papados type restaurants, because we know that they have a fine-tuned process and I can appreciate excellence. So I think that goes back to people want to know that you know them. And when they walk in, you can almost anticipate what they're feeling.
Mhm.
I know the financial emotions that come when somebody's expecting a child. I've been there. I've done that. I know the financial emotions when somebody's about to leave their job, used to a steady income their whole lives, and now have to live off their investments. I've talked through that hundreds of times. That's what they want, and give them what they want if they're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So clear on that. And I think, Tony Robbins also has said, fall in love with your clients, fall in love with your customers. And I think that's such a powerful statement because that's who you're serving at the end of the day. And I can't tell you how many business owners that just frustrate me that they're just thinking about themselves and like, oh, well, my business, and I want to make this amount of money, which is great. But like, what are you doing for your customers? Who is your customer? Number one, and it's amazing that when you flip that switch and you just think about the customer, it might be a little bit longer to get that profit, but the profit's going to be a lot better and you're going to feel a lot better about yourself as well.
It's sustainable. I have a mentor, a financial planner, and I tell them, what happens when you don't really like a customer or not, or you're not providing that much value? They say that, Randall, they fire you because part of our business is going above and beyond. Part of a healthcare professional is going slightly above and beyond in the way that the customer values. And if you want a sticky customer, you have to be in a mental and emotional place, a heart-led business to serve that person above and beyond. And you're not going to do that if you're trying to do mass scale. You're not going to do that if you're just trying to ink every little dollar out of somebody. It'll happen for a short term, but sustainably, it'll be a challenge, just a grind, to be honest with you.
Yeah. 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 And, the flip side of that, it might be a grind at first to when you're niche down and you're really solving the customer's problems. But then once it's kind of that flywheel is going, then it's so much easier. You just in that pattern.
Yeah, there's only so many emotions somebody's about to retire has. Once you master those, there could be incremental learning, like incremental everything. But once you master those, you tend to, you just get better at dealing with it, I guess. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that 10,000 hours in there. Awesome. Well, Randall, how can people learn more about Deasil Wealth Management and you and the work that you're doing for practice owners?
So the best way is usually go to my website. That's www.deasilwm.com. That's deasilwm.com. There you can see all my information. Now, I understand everybody's not in a position to receive a financial planner. So I authored a book, Hacking the System by Creating a System. It's the book behind me right now. It's on Amazon right now. So if you're not ready, but hey, I want the information, I want to learn that, you can go there. I also have a YouTube channel under my name, Randall Avery. That's where I actually interview practice owners. How did they start their business? What is their specialty? And it's almost like a research project for me. It's like you said, double down, that passion, love, taking that extra step, having those 10,000 conversations or putting those 10,000 hours in. That's an active process that I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. And we're going to put all those links down in the show notes as well. But Randall, thank you so much for spending the time with me again today and sharing your wisdom with the audience. So I really appreciate it. And I know the audience really appreciates your advice as well.
I enjoyed my time. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And thank you, listeners, for checking out the show today. And we really do appreciate you stopping by. So make sure you're checking out everything that Randall's doing. We're going to put all of those links down into the show notes. And then also while you're down there, if you could give the show a rating and review, that would really help spread the word about the Heart-Led Business Show and help more business owners get a little heart into that business and fall in love with their clients again. So until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.